was the question I had too. Was what kind of system is in place if
Yes.
both of the say the main and
Yes.
the backup goes out? Are you back to the fucking?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Yes, that's why you have to be. That's why you have to test for it, and you got to know how to do it. And the Coast Guard expects you to know how to do that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so
if all those electronics fail, you're back to pirate days, bro.
You're back to your magnetic compass and celestial and terrestrial navigation. So I am licensed in every aspect. There's no aspect that I'm not licensed in.
Holy shit.
So you as a mariner, as a licensed officer, as a mate, you have to be able to navigate that vessel under any circumstance, no matter what happens. If you're out, like when we were sailing to the West Coast, let's say you're 100 miles off the coast of Mexico and you lose everything, you better know how to get back to land, or God knows where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
So
the ocean is not a very small thing.
It's not. And when you're on a little ship, you look about that big.
Yeah. The size of a Tic Tac, if not smaller.
You look like a Tic Tac, no doubt about it. So it's pretty crazy. You have to know how to use all of it. You have to be able to do every last bit. You got to know how to use a magnetic compass. You got to know how to use a sextant and how to formulate these problems. And a lot of these equations, they'll take, I don't know, at least a full page or 2 pages of paper, and they will take some guys, some guys that are doing it for a long time, they can whip them up pretty quick, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Some guys, some problems might take over an hour just for one problem. And if you mess up one digit along the way, you're done. That's it. You're done.
And these problems are what to get, or essentially what's going to get you back on track.
What it's going to do is, so like with terrestrial and celestial navigation, there's different forms of determining your position.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different things that you can use, like tools that you can use to find out your position. So what you're trying to determine with the stars and the planets, you're trying to figure out where you're at right now in the world.
Right.
So let's say we're 100 miles off the coast of Mexico.
Okay.
We just lost everything.
Okay.
We're like, oh my God, where are we gonna go? So you're gonna have to break out all these old school tools freaking Christopher Columbus was sailing with, dude. So
Yeah.
You're like, dude, you're calling up Christopher on your iPhone, like, dude, how did you get there?
Yeah.
You're like, dude, what did you use?
Yeah.
But we learned a lot from them. Like, honestly, God's honest truth. Like, we learned a lot from those guys because they were the best navigators, dude.
It's so crazy, man.
They navigated with no modern technology, and they made it.
It's so insane to think about that.
Yeah, so it's possible. All these practices were learned years ago, and we just have to know how to use them today, even though we don't for the most part, because we got electronics that are like freaking. You got to know what you're doing, but once you learn how, I mean, it's nice. It's really nice. But let's say we're 100 miles off the coast of Mexico. We lost everything. You're gonna have to break out all this stuff, and you're gonna have to formulate these problems and figure out exactly where your vessel is, and you're gonna plot that on a chart. You're gonna have the chart pulled out of your location that you think you're at, because when you're transiting, at least every hour, you're writing down your exact position.
Really?
So you're gonna know from your course, you've got it all plotted out. You're gonna know your course line. So you're gonna know you need to be steering, I don't know, 330 degrees true. So there's with headings, there's true headings and magnetic headings.
Okay. So
we steer on true headings. But if you lost your electronics, your gyro compass, then you're going to be relying on your magnetic compass. Now, your magnetic compass is different than your true heading because you got variation around the world with the magnetic poles. So that's why there's variation. So if you look on charts on you know what a compass rose is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. In a compass rose on every chart, inside that, it has variation and deviation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you read those numbers, it'll tell you so many degrees east, west, north, south, whatever.
Right.
It'll tell you the deviation. So if you have to go from a true heading to a magnetic heading, it's a formula. You plug your numbers into that formula and it'll give you your magnetic heading based upon your true heading.
Holy shit. Like,
So
I would have never thought that I'd have to like bust out a calculator to get shit going out there.
Oh, dude, you're gonna have to bust out more than a calculator. That's for dang sure. So I'm trying to get to, we're 100 miles off Mexico.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out how we're gonna get back to the next port, the closest port, because we're like, dude, we need to get this stuff fixed now.
Yeah, of course.
we got to find out first our location. We're going to go back in time. We're going to say, okay, about an hour ago, we were right here and we were on this heading. So we knew we were doing 10 knots. We knew we were doing 330 degrees true. And if based on that speed and distance, this is about where we should be.
Right.
We should be right about here, because if we traveled at this heading, at this speed, that should place us right here on the chart.
Okay.
Now, if we wanted to check that with no electronics, we'd have to bust out the old sextant. And that's what freaking Christopher Colombo was freaking sailing on.
God.
And you're gonna have to bust that out, and you're gonna have to look at some stuff. You're gonna have to get out your all of these publications and all this stuff to figure out. You got Bowditch, which is like the Bible for navigation.
Really?
Nathaniel Bowditch, I think is his name. His last name is Bowditch, but I think his first name is Nathaniel. Dude, he wrote this book like ages ago, and it's like the Bible today. Literally, it's like Jesus
Holy
wrote it himself.
shit, really?
So when I tested for my license, I used Bowditch a lot throughout my testing.
Wow.
And you're able to use certain things, and you're in the test exam room. There's certain publications and things that are like Coast Guard like allows you to use.
Right.
It's not going to be word for word, answer for answer. You're going to have to like interpolate what's going on.
Right.
So you're going to bring out Bowditch. You're going to bring out your freaking everything, all about the stars, planets, and you're going to be like, okay, let's figure out where I'm at right now. I think this is where I'm at. Let's check it out. So you do everything, you figure out where you're at, and you're like, okay, we're here. Now you've got no gyro compass because it's done. You got no navigation software, it's done. You got no radars, they're done. So you're like, all you got is engines. You got engines, and you got freaking rudders that'll steer you to where you need to go.
Right.
And you got up on the flying bridge, which is on top of your head when you're driving the ship. It's the next level. It's basically like what a roof would be on a house.
Okay.
But it's called the flying bridge.
Okay.
And up there, you've got your compass, and it's your magnetic compass, and you view it through like like when you saw those guys in movies like looking through the
submarine. Yeah.
It's like that. I'm trying to describe it, and that's a funny way to describe it, but like you look through this thing, and it's got a mirror on it.
Yeah.
And you look up top above you, and you see what your magnetic heading is.
What the fuck?
Yes. So that's how you see your magnetic heading. So it's going to give you a value. It's going to say 335 degrees, and that's magnetic. That's not true.
Right.
That's magnetic because you're going off of your compass.
Right.
And it's based. You have to do what's called swinging a ship. You have to get them calibrated every so often. And we just did one when I came out of the shipyard in Louisiana, which was a crazy, dude. I could go on about that story for two, but we came out of the shipyard and it was crazy. Dude, it was crazy. But either way, I took the ship out of freaking the bayou in Louisiana, took it up the Mississippi River, drove it from there all the way to North Carolina. And it was interesting. But either way, you're going to have your heading now. You're going to have your position. You're going to look at your chart, and you're going to say, okay, what heading do I need to do to get to this port over here on this chart? And it's going to tell you a heading. It's going to be, let's just throw out a number. Let's say 040 magnetic.
Okay.
So you're gonna steer the ship. You're gonna steer it. You're gonna freaking obviously give it some juice on the mains, and you're gonna get hooked up.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be cruising.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to rely on that little thing with that mirror to be looking up above you to say, okay, you got to stay on this heading this whole time, or you're gonna be in another country before you know it.
Yeah. Now when all of this goes down, does everybody on the ship essentially know, like, oh shit, like we're deviating a little bit, we're picking up speed? It's time for us to get like something's going on.
When a situation like that takes place, because I've been dealt all kinds of situations. Like, I mean, I can't even explain all the situations I've been thrown over the years, like of different things like malfunctioning or breaking. And that's part of the job. I mean, you're on an equipment that's bound to fail.
Yeah, you're putting electronics in the salt water. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Things are not going to go well.
Yeah, you're putting electronics around salt. You're putting all your equipment is in salt water. It's running salt water all the time. So things break. I mean, it happens. But you got guys on there that are professionals that know how to fix it. Right. So for the most part, whenever we break something, we just kind of go hang out for a little bit. I'll just hold the ship up, which is called holding to. So I'll get out of the channel. We'll get the gear up. And I'll just hang out. I'll keep the ship like into the wind, and I'll just keep it just sitting there. I'll just use my mains, a little bit of rudder, a little bit of thruster, and I'll just chill. I'll just hang out while we figure out what the hell's
going on. Right.
What's the problem? How do we fix it? Who's going to fix it? Do we need to order anything? Do we have the part on board?
Yeah.
Do we need to get a special technician from this company to come out to the ship to fix it?
Now,
So,
what kind of event would have to happen for all of this shit to go down?
Struck by lightning.
Really? That's the big one?
If you get struck by lightning, 9 times out of 10, it's going to fry every electronic on that vessel.
Holy hell.
And that happens, dude. When you're 100 miles out, there ain't no metal around. You're a big steel hull, and you got antennas pointing up like this. And you're like, hey, strike me. I'm out here. And you know what? Now that I bring that up, the closest I ever saw a lightning strike to me, I was on an oil field boat, and I was an AB at the time, and we were heading out to the rigs, which are 150 to 200 miles offshore in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm leaving Louisiana. We're in a gnarly storm, dude. It's black. It's nighttime. It's pitch black. You can't even see really in front of you. It's raining sideways. It's windy. It's like 60-mile-an-hour winds, 70-mile-an-hour winds. The seas are gnarly, just like what you would picture, just like where you don't want to be in life.
Hey, like, man, this is one of there's like probably like being on fire and then like right there.
Yeah, you're like, this is where I don't want to be in life. And I was there, and I was like, oh God, we're going down. So, we're cruising. We're in the middle of this storm, dude. The radars, all you see is so radars will pick up like rain showers and thunder showers.
Right.
It'll pick it up, and the whole screen is just storm.
God.
And we're in the middle of it. We're in the dead center of it. So like this lightning bolt comes out of the sky, hits about 40 to 50 feet in front of the bow of the boat while we're hooked up cruising. It hits the water, and flames come off the water, like legitimately flames and fire comes off the water and spreads out. It was the craziest thing I ever seen in my life, dude.
Holy shit.
So it was like 50 feet from striking the boat, and had it struck the boat, I think it was trying to, it just missed its target.
Holy shit.
Because there was nothing else around us, dude. We're literally in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, 100 miles offshore, and we weren't near any rigs at the time.
Yeah.
So like when it struck the water, it struck and it was like boom, 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 boom. And flames were coming off the water. And I was like, oh my God.
Dude, that's insane. Dude, imagine if that actually had hit at that point in time. Like, obviously, it's lightning, bro.
Yes,
yes. You're also not worried about system being fried, but we're talking about, actual damage.
Well, the way the electrical fields go around the metal, it kind of like disperses around and goes into the water. So like most times when a ship gets struck by lightning, the crew is okay, but the vessel's electronics get fried.
Okay.
Because the electricity comes in and it's sitting in a body of water, obviously.
Right.
So it like when it hits the vessel, it goes through all that metal and then it like disperses the electricity into the water. So like it goes out and it spreads out throughout all the like the steel or the aluminum or whatever the metal is of the vessel.
Right.
And it just kind of goes through it and then like away. So typically you yourself are okay, even though you probably just like shit your pants. But like
I'm gonna shit my pants even if it didn't hit me, bro.
You're probably gonna be okay, but you're probably gonna be like, oh, you're saying a prayer right now. You're like, dude, you're like, I'm alive. I'm alive. Thank God.
That's insane. Like.